Hello and welcome to the CDO Magazine interview series. I'm Adita Karkera, Chief Data Officer for Deloitte's Government and Public Services. And it's my honor today to welcome my very good friend and the state CIO for the state of Nebraska, Dr. Matthew McCarville. Matt, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Very nice to see you.
Matt, tell us a little bit about your specific role today as a CIO. Where does it fit into the whole state organizational hierarchy? Do you report up to the governor's office? How does that play out for you?
So one similarity to Florida, and only one, I am under the shared Department of Administrative or Management Services. So in Florida, the CIO's office was under DMS. Here, the CIO's office is an agency under DAS, same concept. And also, like Florida, I am on the cabinet for the governor. So I'm a direct report of the 24 agencies that the governor has on his cabinet. Every month we have a cabinet meeting. I am treated as an independent agency, direct report to the governor from his perspective, from a budget perspective, from the cabinet member peer perspective. All cabinet members by regulation in the state of Nebraska have to use my office for their IT. Unless it is an agency-specific need for IT. They're the only agency doing it. They're allowed to go off of the enterprise model and do it on their own. But we're finding, as we modernize government IT, that everything kind of becomes shared. All these software as a service, all these ticketing platforms, all this modernization, all these multi-cloud strategies, all these data warehouses. These are multi-agency things. We're all better off sharing our data with each other because another commonality with Florida is unemployment's on one side. But SNAP, TANF, food stamps is on the other side. Medicaid, Medicare is on another agency. None of these agencies talk to each other right now. None of this data is shared. None of these applications are common. So every citizen has to apply for each one of these separately, and it all goes to a different vetting board and a different database. None of this stuff is shared between the back end. So as we really look at this from a high level, we are all better off modernizing together and using our data as the most valuable asset this state has. In its shared government services, in its ability to simplify constituent interactions as they apply, as they look at their application processes, their payout, their monetary distributions from entitlement programs. How do we synchronize all this data on the back end and then also synchronize the user experience on the front end for the constituents in our state? We're really looking at that across the board.
Well, there's a lot, Matt, that you mentioned there. So I'm going to try to unpack some of the points that you mentioned because it really sparked my curiosity there. For one, you talked a little bit about, kind of bringing together the data and the challenges with data sharing that you might be facing with multiple departments. Talk to us a little bit about, whether it's data sharing or some of the other issues you mentioned, kind of bringing together these departments together. Because I think I hear that from a lot of CIOs and CDOs too, bringing together the needs and the common motivations and objectives of different agencies can often be hard. And pulling all these siloed systems together is definitely a challenge, that you and I both have been talking for a while.
Yeah, no, the silos are a problem. The shadow IT systems are a problem. The procurement that they're allowed to do at department levels within agencies, not even agency procurement, but departments within an agency doing their own procurements, all problems that we have to figure out how to be more efficient on. In one way, I'm fortunate that this state, when I came in, is in a budget deficit. It's because it is kind of forced the view of centralization and efficiency, because they can't all afford to go rogue and do things on their own anymore. They can't afford the data warehouse from an obsolete vendor anymore. They can't afford 30 people to do IT in a shadow system anymore. They're being forced to cut things and be more efficient and centralized. It's not a mandate on centralization. We did that about a decade ago for infrastructure. Didn't go well. Now we're doing it because of the budget deficit. And it's allowed me to have conversations that I probably wouldn't have been able to have with my agency peers, in that, hey, you don't need these 10 silos anymore. Or, hey, Health and Human Services, did you know you have 20 of the same kind of platform from different vendors and none of them talk to each other? But if we all modernized and work together, you'd save 50% of the cost you're paying now. You wouldn't need all the resources that you're paying for, and you'd get better reporting and data quality because we'd be merging it and cleansing it and going, okay, Department of Labor, do you have more up-to-date information on that citizen? Then validate the address, validate their current situation, their income, their job, using, we are one of the states that charge state income taxes. So we have a Department of Revenue that comes into as well. Florida, there was a big difference. We didn't have state income tax and no state revenue. So we didn't have that database to be able to compare to the other things to have the most up-to-date information on our citizens across the board, because every agency is better off having the most up-to-date information on our citizens. But we're finding as we dig deeper that each one of these little silos and shadow IT systems that are going on have different timelines of their updates, and when they actually do get requests in from their constituents to update the data they have in their data system. Some of them, they'll do a monetary distribution, send a check, never ask for an updated address after that. And it's been years, whether they're in the retirement population on Medicare or they're in the SNAP TANF food stamp on the other side. It's that a lot of those commonalities across these shadow systems. And the vendors love that because they get to pick us apart and make God knows how much money on us because they can sell the same product 20 times in 20 different flavors. So we're really working and leveraging that budget deficit to drive that centralized mindset without mandating that they have to be centralized.
Matt, that's really interesting. One other topic that you touched on earlier, you talked about your efforts in cybersecurity. I know that's a huge priority for you personally as well as for the state. Tell us a little bit about what you're trying to solve there and some of your successes in that field.
Absolutely. When I got here, we had one individual that had been here for a couple of years. He was a policy analyst only, no budget, no direct reports, no cybersecurity tools. We managed cybersecurity from an infrastructure perspective, firewalls. That's how we kind of thought of cybersecurity. That's all we had. And this state had been very lucky. They had never been breached or ransomware, knowing what I know now. We have ramped that up tremendously in the roughly 18 months I've been here. We were one of the first states before Feds started changing their funding models with MS ISAC and CISA to think of a whole of state model. We have roughly 290 K through 12 educational service unit ESUs. We have 93 counties, and 90% of our state is rural. The small towns, city councils are farmers and shop owners and lawyers in the town. You're not talking about IT people. You're not talking about where one of our counties is highly urban. So a 1 million person city of Omaha that we have, and that is almost half the population of our state within a 45-mile radius of that central point in that county. So that one has its own kind of way that it plays. And in Florida, that was Miami. Miami did whatever they wanted to do. The state did the rest. This is kind of how Nebraska goes. And I think every state has those examples. Colorado, it was Denver versus the rest of the state. And how we move forward here in Nebraska from a cybersecurity perspective is how do we take care of those that do not have the funding to do it on their own? How do we offset the cost that cabinet agencies have to spend on modern cybersecurity by bringing in other people who can pay for part resources, part platforms, part data ingress, egress, by sharing the cost end to end from a resource perspective all the way to a platform and data perspective. We are not only diluting the cost for state to operate and have best of breed cybersecurity, we are also allowing the counties to be brought up together and offer that to all the counties who can't do it on their own, who have been trying for decades to figure out what does cybersecurity mean for them. It typically means the one guy they have at the county who is also installing new monitors got tapped on the shoulder and got told he's now a cybersecurity person and to implement two-factor. That's the kind of thing that we're trying to bring up is modernize the cybersecurity approach, whole of state model, bring everybody in. We have developed a joint SOC model. We took a 5,000 square foot area of our office of the CIO building that's right next to the Capitol here in Lincoln and modernized that from a storage room with no carpet, no paint into a modern state-of-the-art screens all over the place, tools, metrics, analytics, KPIs, multiple vendors in there, best of breed joint SOC whole of state model. So we are now bringing in the state university system and their multiple campuses, the state college system and their multiple campuses, all of K through 12, because we're the only state that we call Network Nebraska, that all the backbone of fiber and the backbone of infrastructure for our K through 12 in the state of Nebraska runs through Network Nebraska. It's a collection of different RFPs and vendors that we manage that backbone the state K through 12 system. What that also allows us to implement cybersecurity through the Network Nebraska model and leverage E-rate to partially fund this. So with the disappearance of the MSISAC funding and the ability for SLCG grants to come through that they had been relying on for things like two-factor, Duo, Microsoft Defender, we are now seeing a massive request in how do we help them do the day-to-day cyber, not defend ransomware, not if they get breached. They can't even think about that. But the two-factor, the defender, the phishing education, the preliminary basics of cybersecurity. And that's what a lot of our joint SOC model is going to bring. We're going to bring in, train the trainer. We're going to bring in the counties. We're going to bring in those IT people that have been tapped in the shoulder, educate them, bring them in with a multi-vendor ecosystem so the vendors can get them trained and certified in all of these different platforms, whether it be firewall vendors, whether it be, the best AI cybersecurity vendors out there. We are bringing all of them in to play ball together in a whole of state model.
Thank you so much for joining us today, Matt, and for sharing your experiences and your insights and your great career journey with the audience today. And for the rest of the audience, continue to stay tuned and watch out for other interviews coming out of this series.